Well, hello everyone. Today we are back in Lazarus, and it's a continuation of, I think, my first episode where we were looking at a news item downloader, using a news API, and in that first video that I was using, I was having problems when the data was compressed and processing it. I am aware there or that in the Z stream there was code which would allow you to let's say decompress a stream, but let's just say that whenever I tried to use it I was getting an error of some sort, so I just couldn't get that part to work straight away. I guess the other thing is that from my own experience is that I'm quite familiar with the Indy tools. Excuse me. So I thought, actually, I did have to look. I did have to do a little bit of a search, and I found that that Indy does have decompression for GZip and deflate, etc. So I decided, well, let's go down a path of something that I am familiar with in Lazarus and go from there. So I was wondering, so my first thought was, well, how do I install a package into Lazarus here? And then I found, I just wandering through the menus, and I found the online package manager. And using this particular tool here, I was able to find that Indy was a component which I could click on, and then I saw down the bottom here there's options for downloading, installing, etc. And I think the nice thing also here is you can actually search for a component if you know its name, which I think is pretty good. Actually, my real thoughts about the online package manager for Lazarus here is that I'm going to say that it is a very excellent tool that you can use. And while similar functions exist, maybe in VS Code or or the Get It manager in Delphi, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to say this is the best one I've seen of late. So it may be a me thing, I may be old, but I do like this one. So anyway, we were able to install Delphi, and it got put into the Lazarus environment, Lazarus environment, free Pascal environment, and I didn't really need to do much to be able to use it. In fact, on restarting Lazarus, basically the components are all there. I don't have to worry about the any paths at all. It's like magic compared to Delphi, shall we say. So once it's installed, what did we do? So we put on an HTTP component, which you can currently see highlighted here. I had to add in the SSL handler, and then there is the compression library as well. With the compression library, that is used separate to the other two, and we will look at the code in a moment. I do have one question, minor irritation, we'll say. When the whole Lazarus is in, let's say, in like a docked mode, and I want to add a component into my program, I'm so used to, let's say, drag and drop but as soon as my cursor, so my window's disappeared, I go back to there, I find the component I want, my window's disappeared again. If I want to put it in, I know I can double click on it. No, cannot hold T controls. Okay, let me just go back. Let's go back into the form. We will just click on the form, and it's not overly well. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. So if I go to there, I go to, hang on, let's go back to the form, and we'll go back to the form, F12 again, and I'll just click there. Okay, and a toggle box goes there. Like I said, I'm just not used to that part of it. So, if there's an easier way, I would love to hear from you. My next little gripe, shall we say, here is and admittedly, part of this is my fault where I am using a dark mode for the in Lazarus here, and you'll see that some of the properties are in this sort of like dark red color. Now I am using the, let's see when it comes up, the Kerwish dark theme, and like I said, I'm not quite sure where the controls are for the other components, and it may be just a case of having using a different theme for for Lazarus itself, so it doesn't, look, for me, and I'm old, it's a bit hard to read some of these values here without having to adjust my screen or get up close to it, and I am wearing glasses, so we are going blind as well. So again, if you do know how, if you do have an idea of where I can change that, otherwise I'll just start looking at a different theme. But I do like dark themes. So back to the program. I think the first thing to notice is that here in the form create, so when the form gets created, I'm going to set the path for zlib, because zlib contains the functionality we are looking for when we want to decompress the stream. In the previous version, the code to get the response from the new server is all down below here. I've moved it down to here. We tell it, we put in some headers. We then get the text and basically do something with it. Here we're using an HTTP Indy component. We create some place to put the response, and once we're done with the response we can free it, and then we can we put in our API key as last time, but they go into custom headers, and then we can process the response. The reason why, the reason why we are looking at the raw headers is just so that I can check what type of content is coming back before I do something odd with it. Perhaps in a in another version of the program, you would check the type of content you are getting before processing that response, whether it's, let's just say, standard text or compressed, and if it is compressed, whether it's deflate, GZip, or something else. The other in the heading, in the other headers then, which I set through the component, were that I said I would accept a GZip. The content type is JSON or application/JSON. I could put the API key in here, but I did not. and the user agent is already set, so we didn't have to worry about that. And if you notice here, like I said, these values here are, some of these values are in that dark red color, which is hard to read. So to process the news items, what we are using then is this function here. Again, we're using an Indy component, an Indy compressor zlib, and it will has a function which will allow a stream to be decompressed essentially. So we're getting it, and we are getting a GZip stream. So we basically want to decompress this stream into this result here, and I'm calling it articles, and those articles will then appear in the second memo field. So that if we now run it, I need my coffee. Clicked on button 1. And here we've got the result now. You can see we have a GZip stream, and well, the encoding of the content is GZip, and this is the result after decompressing it. Again, still a rather simple, but it just shows you, how little code you actually need to be able to do something. Especially, I'm not saying get rid of that line there, but there is a fair bit inside the Indy, and which can, basically, well, I can now handle a GZip stream, whereas in the first version, I mean, it could, like I said, it could have been my own fault. And in all honesty, when I was testing this version here, I had to work out, where zlib was, because it was having issues, and then you got the 32-bit versus 64-bit. But all this is another story, not relevant to this particular stream. So in my second look, I'm going to chalk this one up as a win. I've learnt a little bit more about Lazarus and the IDE. I've actually learned something about Indy as well now, with the the zlib functionality that it contains, especially the fact that I can go from a stream to a stream. And maybe in the next one, what we can do is to make the display of the news items prettier. As I said, no system's perfect, and this one does have a couple of quirks. So if you tell me how I can make my experience here better, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget, if you do like the content that I'm providing you here, please, if you do like what I'm doing, please click the like button, subscribe, and then also hit that notifications button so you know when I've got more content here. Whereas in my previous life, I was let's say mostly, or let's say in as far as, let's say, Pascal programming, it was all Delphi based. Here I'm moving into Lazarus, so all you Lazarus users, hit me up with what you want me to do. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, and bye for now.